It was a quiet evening when Mia moved into the old house at the end of the street. It was a charming place surrounded by tall trees and overgrown ivy, its vintage architecture giving it a rustic appeal. The house had been vacant for years, and Mia was excited to start a new chapter of her life in a place that felt full of potential. But there was something strange about the house. As Mia began unpacking boxes, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She dismissed the sensation as nerves, convincing herself that it was just the unfamiliarity of the new space. That night, after a long day of settling in, Mia decided to call it a night. She crawled into bed. The soft creaking of the floorboards beneath her was the only sound in the house, or so she thought. Just as she was about to drift off to sleep, she heard it. A faint whisper coming from somewhere deep within the walls. The words were unintelligible, like a soft murmur that danced around the edges of her hearing. Her heart skipped a beat, but she forced herself to ignore it. She told herself it was nothing. Old houses made strange noises. But the whispering didn't stop. The next night it happened again. This time it was louder, clearer. The voice, barely audible but chilling in its intent, seemed to be calling her name. Mia. Her eyes snapped open. She lay in bed, her body frozen with fear, unable to move. The whisper came again. Mia, you're not alone. She leaped from her bed and turned on all the lights, hoping to chase away the darkness that seemed to have settled into the very bones of the house. She checked the windows, locked, the doors, secure. Still, the whispers continued, louder now, almost desperate. I'm right behind you. Mia's blood ran cold as the sound came from the walls directly behind her, as if something or someone was on the other side, mere inches away. She could feel the presence, the heavy weight of it, pressing down on her. Terrified, she ran out of her room and into the hallway, her footsteps echoing in the empty house. But no matter how far she ran, the whispers followed, moving with her, wrapping around her like a cold, unseen hand. In a panic, she rushed into the basement, hoping the stone walls would block out the voices. But when she turned on the light, she saw something that stopped her in her tracks. There, on the cold, damp floor, was an old, dust-covered photo. It was of the house just like it was now, but the people in the picture were different, strange. Their faces were blurred, but one stood out. A man standing just behind a woman and child, with a sinister smile that made Mia's blood run cold. She picked up the photo, and as soon as her fingers touched the glass, the whispers stopped. For a brief moment, all was silent. But then she heard it again. Not from the walls, but from the floor beneath her. Get out! Mia's heart pounded as she spun around, trying to find the source of the voice. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble, the walls shaking as if the house itself were alive. The temperature dropped, and she could see her breath in the air, thin tendrils of frost creeping across the floor. In a flash, the basement door slammed shut, trapping her inside. The whispering came back, louder than ever, but this time it was more than just a voice. It was a chorus, a cacophony of whispers, all chanting the same words in unison. Leave, now, or we'll take you. Mia backed away, her legs shaking, her mind screaming at her to run. She grabbed the photo, clutched it tightly in her hand, and ran for the stairs, her footsteps frantic against the wooden steps. As she reached the top, the door to the outside was slammed shut by an invisible force. The whispering came again, now so close, she could feel the breath on her neck. Stay with us. A sudden, terrifying thought struck her. There were no other residents on the street. No one ever came by. Mia was completely alone, trapped in this house with whatever haunted it. Desperate, she scrambled to open the front door, but it wouldn't budge. The house was alive now, its walls closing in on her, the voices growing louder with every second. She turned around one last time, and what she saw made her blood freeze in her veins. The shadows in the corners of the room began to twist and form shapes, dark silhouettes of figures, their features obscured by the dark. But one thing was clear. Their eyes were all watching her, waiting. With no way out, no escape, Mia's last breath was swallowed by the whispers as the darkness engulfed her, and the house claimed yet another soul.